Well. We are back. It is developer blog 22, 23. Most electrifying man in blog entertainment is back. The Rock, Dwayne Z. This developer blog features Dana and SAS Shadowz. Get the advertisements out of the way. If you want to join the community, there are ways to join the community. I have a Discord page. I have this YouTube page, which you can like, comment, and subscribe on. I have a Twitch page, which you can follow and subscribe on. I have a Twitter account, and I have a few other places that you can support me. There'll be lots of links in the descriptions. Basically, the badges that you're seeing somewhere above the chat is effectively the subscriber badges. There's a whole journey that you progress through. It's little fun things to gain through supporting me, but mainly it's the feedback. I limit my time on social media. I don't think it's healthy to spend a massive amount of time always reading feedback about yourself. So each day I set my timer, I turn on a 1 hour timer, and I just browse all of the sections that I want to find out about the news. I go to the key places first from people that are supporting me, and I reply to every single comment, and then I head over to the public subscribers on YouTube, and I reply to all of my public subscribers, and then when the hour's up, I clock out. Your best bet is to subscribe to the YouTube page so I know you're a subscriber, because apparently like 97% I think of my viewers are not subscribed. So if you're not subscribed, hit that sub button. Yeah, there's memberships, the little join button on YouTube I recently got, Twitch and all that stuff. So that's the advertisements out of the way. I'm glad to be back. I'm feeling a little better. I still don't feel perfect. I'd be lying if I did. I don't really feel like streaming at the moment, but I'm all right to do some videos. So to begin, we'll change scene and we'll have a quick chat.
There's a bunch of PvE changes that are going to be coming out. There's going to be a PvE update happening next week, actually, around drop rates with cards. There's going to be another update coming next week, which we sort of teased a little bit about inside of today's What's Up. That I told you off stream that is an indication of our desire to listen and to test things and stuff like that. So we've got that going, and then more, and then you're going to see a lot of stuff coming with OP4, and then there's even more stuff planned for OP5. And you know, initially the hope was maybe we could go and give a really good indication of what's coming and what we're working on and all that kind of stuff. The hard part is we didn't want to go and say we were going to do X until we were confident that we could go and do it. Because what we didn't want to do was betray that trust again. So for us, the decision to take things a little bit slower and be a little bit more methodical in our communications is a way for us to actually to do what we're going to say we're going to do and have confidence in that. And I'm seeing the chat right now. I see the frustration hitting the chat. I get that. But that being said, and I was discussing with somebody on Twitter today, there is a lot. I know that the speed at which you guys want isn't necessarily the speed at which we can deliver. That's just not the way that like development works. If you look at what we're doing inside of the game, and you're going to see some of this coming with the features that we're doing, in a lot of ways we're rebuilding the game. We're remaking the game in a way that's different than the game launched at.
To add to that as well, it's like I think you could use like Operation 3 as like the perfect example of because like compared to Operation 1 and 2, it feels like Operation 3 has had the most in terms of like. What you literally just said in terms of like obviously with Operation 3 we had the improved tour of duty with like the tour objectives being more like player friendly and the totems being changed to 30,000, and then obviously recently with the Carmine drop we had the massive like PvE not PvE like the overhaul to the characters for like not having their arcade loadouts and their Horde and Escape classes, you know, like that's sort of like shows you like what could be coming in the future in terms of like changes that are being made to things that were different at launch. But like even using like Operation 3 as the example, like look how long it took to, you know, get to that stage where you could make the change to the term system that was introduced in Operation 1. You could make that change, like, in terms of the Horde and Escape classes for the characters.
So I'll let the first question play out in its entirety and just sort of sat and listened. As always, it's just a first initial response. I don't think about these too much. I just like to keep it off the cuff and chill. So what happens is Operation 2 launches. Okay, boom. And then they've got a few things coming up in Operation 3. The totem fix, the, you know, all the Tour of Duty fix, the more player-friendly stars, etc., etc. They launched those things in Operation 3, but there's a lot of downtime from the launch of the operation to the launch of the next operation, and to me, I'm on the different opinion. I don't think that that's a bad thing. So Shadowz is kind of, I guess, he's basically saying that as a content creator, after Operation 3 launched, there was not really any hype for Operation 4, so there was not any sort of way to generate hype in videos and stuff like that. So I get that. But I would say it's pretty damn common for every company to not reveal what they're working on until it's, you know, they've got a solid placeholder that's definitely staying that they're then going to iterate on. You know, if they introduce a new locust that fires a bow and arrow for some reason or something, they can't announce that at the beginning of the operation because it might get changed and then people will get hyped for something that's not coming, and then it's a little scratch off your name in the sense that people go, oh, it's typical TC, they said they were going to make this guy with a bow and arrow and now they can't. But for me, that's not the problem, and the gap between the content isn't the problem, because there are so many successful games that have big breaks between content. For me, the issue with the current Gears of War is the content that you do wait for and the content you do have a big break for isn't impactful enough to tide you over. What I mean by this is I always use this company as an example because most recently I think they're a great example of a growing company that really captured a market because of their business practices and their feedback. Grinding Gear Games is a New Zealand-based ARPG company, and effectively what they do is every 3 months, just like Gears of War, they release an expansion pack. And up until that expansion pack is released, there's no talk. So here's their cycle. What happens is they release the expansion, people play it. Then when another expansion comes in, people have been playing the current expansion for about 2 months, and there's a ton of content that they're getting through. And after about 2 months, players start to get a bit bored, a bit burnt out. They've been doing the same thing for about 2 months, and they're ready for something new. So what then happens is after the 2-month period, the community managers, the developers, they start appearing on podcasts, they start appearing on shows, dropping little comments on Reddit, sort of building up that hype of, actually, you think zombies are overpowered, wait till you see this, or yeah, we're going to be rebalancing this, that's on our, that's what we're looking at, here's a manifesto being a long article where they might discuss something. To relate it back to Gears of War, they would say, okay, we've heard your feedback that the Lancer's overpowered, here's a 4-page document of everything on our minds going into the next operation. And what that does, I feel, is that tides people over and they get a sense of comfort and they think, okay, you know, I'm a little bit bored of the current operation after 2 months, but there's a lot of stuff coming. Then some images start getting posted, some teasers start getting posted, then the trailer gets hyped up, then there's a week of build-up, and then, boom, the next piece of content launches. So why is that different to TC and Gears? Well, I think what Gears does is Gears has the problem where when that teased or hyped up expansion arrives, it's mediocre. And that's unfortunately the truth. When they release a Tour of Duty, all it really is, if we want to be brutal, is a set of challenges to unlock cosmetics. That's what the Tour of Duty is. There's no depth to gameplay, there's no huge expansions. Occasionally there's maps and there's all of that stuff, but people, they either burn through the Tour of Duty too quickly and then they're left for 3 months with no information coming, no teasing, no manifestos, no nothing, and they start to think, okay, the devs don't care. when I'm sure the devs are working on something, but we're not been shown it. It's not like a Star Citizen Into the Verse where we get behind the scenes videos. It's nothing like that. And then the people that don't like the Tour of Duty, that aren't that interested in cosmetics, because not everybody is. There are some people that love chasing cosmetics and doing a grind. Some people are more gameplay focused, lore focused, aesthetic focused. You know, they want new maps, new areas to fight in or walk through. And if they don't get that from basically the Tour of Duty, they just think, oh, I waited 3 months for nothing, and then it's going to be 3 months wait for nothing again. And technically, yes, there is stuff there. It's not nothing, but for people that don't like the cosmetic chase, there is nothing. Yes, there is the odd map, but it's not enough for 3 months. So that's where I think the difference is. I don't think people are frustrated that it takes 3 months for content to arrive, because I think that's quite normal, actually. I think getting content every 3 months is actually so crazy that it's borderline unsustainable for GGG, who have got a pipeline of assets that reuse these assets. And, you know, they'll take a bug, they'll bend it, they'll morph it, and then they quickly can create another monster. They say like their turnaround is really, really quickly, because they've built these, like, what I would say to draw an equivalent is like the tiles of TC, that they can quickly make these things and churn out content. TC don't have that, so for them to set themselves up to do a 3 month cycle every time is wildly brave and almost a bit suicidal in terms of business, I feel like. I don't know anything about their business. I don't know anything technical like that. That's just what I feel. And it would be okay if the core game was brilliant and then you're waiting 3 months for the expansion. That's what GGG does. The core game's really good. The 3 month stuff is sprinkles on the top. The issue with TC is the 3 month wait is for core features, and I think that's the difference. Again, the 3 month wait isn't for a let's have a new cool character or skin. The 3 month wait is like, right, wait 3 months and then we might fix ranked. Wait another 3 months, then we might fix, you know, whatever system that's not currently functioning up to par. But I think that's what people are frustrated at, is they're waiting 3 months for core features, and the sprinkles that arrive every 3 months aren't that great for the vast majority of players. That's what I would say.
Going to be Andius to the rest.
Oh my God, Liam actually messaged Andius right now saying, hey, try this to fix it. Liam, absolute champ. For those of you that don't know, he's actually working on RuneScape now. That's what he went back
wow.
to go.
Okay.
It's on his LinkedIn, so if somebody wanted to find out, they could go and look there. So there you go. But there we go. So thank you, Octus, formerly known as Octus. Anyways. All
right, I think that goes to show, if anybody had any doubt that Octus actually likes Gears of War, that does go to show the bloke's still trying to help the dev stream and he's left in a different country. If he didn't like Gears of War, he'd just be, thank God I'm out of there. Peace.
Makes sense to me.
Hold on. Ace McLeod says, I know Dana probably can't give exact details, but a lot of us are nervous about the remaining 3 medals for versus events for the Now's Boom Shot. Hope he can mention something. Yeah, I mean, we've seen those inside of that. I actually asked about that today, saying, are we going to get those done before the end of the operation? And I was told, yes, we are. So, yes, they are coming. So, yes. So, what's to do with no Horde events? Haven't had one since December. Yeah, we recognize that. And we're going to bring them come OP4. That's something that we've looked at as a total failure on our part. And we're going to be ramping those up. So, there is a big focus on PvE coming in OP4. We're rolling out a few things that we think people are going to be really excited about. I know that we wanted to, this was part of the roadmap plan. Everyone's been asking about when we're going to do the PvE stream. We're going to hold that closer to the operation when we can start talking about the details of what's going to be in that operation. But we have put a lot of work into that. Okay, first of all, I'm going to call out Bwini. Shadowz isn't a sellout. Shadowz, have I ever given you any money whatsoever?
No.
No. Shadowz has
You got
said
me
a
dinner
bunch of
couple
crap.
times, but
I did. I have bought you dinner for sure. Shadowz has taken me to task, has taken us to task lots of times on stream and lots of time before that. So I think we can. In the end, I will say this: Shadowz is a fan. At the same time, Shadowz also knows the game really well, and he calls it like he sees it. And I don't think I've ever asked, other than things that are maybe a leak, I've never actually asked Shadowz to change anything he said
in the
or pull
GeGZ4
anything
days,
down.
yeah. When things were leaking all over the place, yeah.
Yeah. But other than that, so I want to I appreciate Shadowz. I love all of our fans. Shadowz is a great content creator, but there isn't this isn't something that Shadowz is. I look at Shadowz or Razor's Edge or Witcho or Krauser or all of these guys are people that I have regular conversations with. Other Lee, people that I like, I generally happy to work with, but I want you guys to have your own voice, be authentic. But I know you guys are Gears fans, and you also are privy to a little bit more information than other people know, so that's a bit different. Anyways, so Operation release date. It's looking like it's going to get moved out. We were trying our hardest to keep it. But the working from home, the COVID, all sorts of stuff like that. We're gonna have a really strong understanding of what it's gonna move out to by early next week.
So the delay in the operation, all right, and everyone in the chat, as you can see, no, what the fuck, blah 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 blah. Right, I get it. That's super annoying. But the reality of the situation is there's been a global pandemic. The UK economy's dropped by 20%. Everyone's getting unemployed. There are no jobs. There are riots in the street. The entire world, we've got giant hornets. We've got World War III kicking off. We've got everything kicking off. The reality is there's no way they're building a full operation during all of this. Now, you will point to other companies and say Infinity Ward did it, GGG did it. I think they're Infinity Ward, the new Call of Duty got season, whatever they are. I don't play COD. But that's because they have enormous teams, enormous backing, and they generally have a better, I would say, from the outside looking in, a better pipeline, a better way of making content. That's from the outside looking in. And it was obvious that was going to happen. Absolutely obvious. That's completely fine. The issue is, again, it's not the delay. It's not the wait for content. The issue is, like Dana just said, in Operation 4, we want to fix the fact that Horde's been completely ignored and there's been no events. So now people that want to wait for Horde have to wait even longer. So they're not just waiting for content. They're waiting for things like events to keep the fans happy. And fans don't see Horde events as content. That's kind of like saying, all right, there's a new event in Fortnite. You're going to have to wait for the new season to happen for an event. Normally, these companies that have their own clients, their own patching processes, all of this stuff, they can do it on their own, but it feels like with Xbox games, with TC, they have to schedule these spots for an update. So what they're doing is, right, well, we don't want to do the update too early and miss certain components out. They don't want to say push the update to live and then think, right, we can't get Horde in Operation 4, so what do? Do we delay it and annoy everybody for Horde, or do we bring it out right now and then miss Horde for an entire another operation? That's what people get frustrated at. Not the fact that they have to wait. They're getting frustrated at the fact they're waiting for core features, and seemingly it seems it's kind of arbitrary how those featured are put in or what the priority is, because we don't have a roadmap or anything like that. So yeah, I don't really have any problem with it being delayed in theory, but the end result is frustrating because you've done all of the content in the game ages ago. I did all the content within 2 weeks, and then then I play some multiplayer for a month and a half, play about 2 months, month and a half, and then you kind of getting bored, you take a small break, and that's when normally after After that rush to do the content and then play in the game for like a month and a half, that's when you've like, right, I've got about a month for the new operation. I'm going to chill, maybe play some other games, see what's getting updated. But the issue is people aren't seeing what's getting updated. So they're just like, what? Why are we waiting? So
someone like yourself doesn't have kids, doesn't have that. You can just stay at home and just stay 100% focused. Someone like me who's got kids, who I've got someone walking up to me at 2 in the afternoon saying, hey, I need help with my math homework. I kind of have to, because they're not going to school, so you're juggling all of this stuff. So there's just unintended consequences. Plus there's just before I could walk by somebody's desk and have a 1-minute conversation and ask them a question, now it becomes let's set up a meeting and let's find time to chat. So everything just slows down a little bit. It's just, and then if you think about we would have a whole QA team that's inside the studio. Now they're having to go and download builds of the game daily. So like 100 gigabyte download that they've got to then download. They've got to... all of that process, which is accelerated inside of the studio, just...
So we understand, there's a lot of problems with working from home. I don't think anybody can be too angry at that. I guess they're just annoyed that, it takes its time. What I am reading at the same time is, this is why I use Twitch, is I like to read the chat to get an idea of what people are saying. And I always just sit here each time I feel like chat one-ups each other, and I'm like, did he really just say that? There are a lot of stuff in here that makes sense, but also is just really crazy. So, hire more people, don't make excuses. Let's say in a perfect world, Gears of War is the biggest game on Earth, and everybody's playing it and everyone's loving it. The entire economy, the entire global economy is down. Hirings are happening way less frequently. Specifically, not just due to economy, but just how do I word it? Physically, you can't go into an interview, all of the buildings are closed. There's just way more hoops to jump through, right? But what he's not factoring in here is Gears of War is not a big game. I'm sorry. I thought about this last night when I was watching the PlayStation 5 launch, and I thought to myself, it sort of ended on, I think it's Horizon Zero Dawn, I believe that's the game. And it ended on that game as in and don't forget, here is Horizon Zero Dawn, boom. And everyone was like, PogChamp in the chat, everyone was freaking out. And that's how I used to think about Gears of War. I was that guy that when I saw the console, when I saw the announcement, I was like, yes, there's a new Gears of War. This is going to be incredible. I can't wait. Please show me anything. And that's what Gears used to be. It used to be that thing that you ended your presentation on, that boom moment where you're like, but don't forget, guys, by the way, this is the only place you can be playing this game, this incredible game. And now, if they were to release the Xbox Series X, promotional videos, trailers, etc., and they were to throw in Gears 6, some people would be hyped, but a lot of people would be like, oh, it's that Gears of War game again. It doesn't have that same, that same spark it used to have. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because you can't just hire more and more people. Yeah, I mean, Microsoft have got money. Microsoft, if they wanted to, could hire 300 people today and say, listen, 300 people, you're all on 50 to 100k a year, build Gears 5 into the greatest game possible. Of course they could do that. Microsoft have got basically infinite money. But it's not worthwhile. They're never going to see a return on their investment doing that. And I know this guy isn't saying hire 300 people. I know he's not saying that. But the point is, it's kind of sad to say, but it looks from the outside, again, because I don't have any information, it looks from the outside like a franchise on its knees. That's what it looks like, and that's sad as a Gears fan. To see your favourite franchise go from the be-all and end-all to just being a kind of side note in a presentation. That's how it feels. And I think these things don't help. All these little things don't help, Like he says, TC's trust is at an all-time low. And he probably thinks, I've got to now tell them that the operation's been delayed. That makes complete sense. If TC had good standing and were in good stead, that the community would be like, don't worry about it, we understand. But when they're not in good stead, it piles the pressure on. So I understand from their viewpoint how pressurizing it would be. Then we also have people like this that have been spamming this all the time. Scrap is for decoration. When are you going to remove the shop? When are you going to fix the blah, blah, blah? What people aren't understanding is you don't hire people if you don't have money. You don't make money if you don't have a post-sale monetization process. And the fact people think scrap's for decoration because if you don't play Escape and Horde, then there is no reason. However, if you do play Horde and Escape a lot, scrap is actually not for decoration. I actually wish I had so much more scrap. I don't get scrap enough, and therefore I never can buy the cards I want or upgrade the certain things I want, and then I have to play and RNG it, which is fine in an RNG based farming game, but I'm not playing Gears of War to be an RNG based farming game. No, so, I just feel like it's frustrating to read for me, but it must be even more frustrating to read for Dana because, he can't say these things, can he? I don't imagine he can say these things, but, the reality is he probably thinks, what are you talking about, mate? Hire people and blah, 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 blah. Like, just gets very frustrating reading the same comments over and over and over again, and that's a lot of the time why I skip a large portion of these dev blogs, because he's just reiterating the same point.
What do we got?
I've got a question, Dana.
I've
got a question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, ask away.
So it's something that I've thought about since the launch of Gears 5. So obviously, when it comes to the store, it's a bit controversial. Everybody's got their own sort of like opinions on the store. I've always had the idea because obviously the store serves like content through the Iron Premium currency. Has the idea ever been sort of like bounced around of like maybe introducing the scrap as sort of a secondary currency usable in a store, but in a way that doesn't like devalue the Iron like premium currency that it is? So even if it's something as simple as like maybe if you had like a 500 Iron character skin, and then you had the choice maybe like even if you just took like the value of the Iron and like times that ratio by 10, so like if a 500 Iron character skin could be acquired also through like Iron
for like 5,000 scrap.
Let's say.
All right, so that makes sense, but we've had this question on the dev blog about 100 times, and I'll try to guess what he's going to say because I've heard it 30 times, 50 times, a million times, so we'll see. What Dana's probably going to say is how do I word this? The values are not intrinsically connected, so they don't really have a value tied to each other. They're independent of each other, and if they were to make a paid piece of content that normally costs Iron suddenly costs scrap, there are going to be a huge load of ramifications. So this is the problem, okay? If they made scrap usable in the shop, you're going to have a few issues. Number one, the amount of scrap it would cost to offset the lost sales and the value of the Iron would be, I think, monumental. What I mean is, it wouldn't be 500 Iron equals 500 scrap. It wouldn't. It would be more like 500 Iron equals 50,000 scrap. And people will say, well, that's ridiculous, but that's kind of the way it would be, because if you're able to farm for paid skins, everybody would do that. If you make that happen, then what's the first thing people are going to do? People are going to immediately go, okay, what is the most efficient way to make scrap? That's what everyone's going to do. If you can buy stuff through grinding, people are going to be, right, what's the most efficient way to make scrap? And somebody will game the system and they'll come up with the way to make the fastest scrap per hour. And everybody will do that, okay? So then they'll need to adjust the scrap earning rates. Maybe they go up, maybe they go down. Okay, that's great. So now all of a sudden, people are wanting to use their scrap to purchase skins. If you're wanting to use your scrap to purchase skins, you're not using it in escape mode, which is actually needed to upgrade your cards and your horde, So then the escape and horde players get hurt, okay. Now, what happens if someone that comes up with the GG method of farming scrap, it happens to be in Escape or Horde, because really that's what you're going to play. It's not going to be multiplayer. It's going to be something based around Horde and Escape, isn't it? So then they go, oh god, this everyone's farming like 3,000 scrap an hour, and they're just buying everything in the shop. We're making no money. We've got the ratios wrong. They're going to have to crank down the ratio of earning scrap. They crank down the ratio of earning scrap, that people in chat are going to get frustrated that, oh, typical greedy TC, they don't want us to earn scrap. But really, they've done it because it devalues Escape. If you're earning 1 million scrap, if you're earning a ton of scrap, then it's you're ploughing through Escape easily. You don't need to play the game. You can just upgrade all of your cards, and then they'll nerf the scrap. And then people aren't getting enough scrap to play Horde and Escape, and they're frustrated. So then you need to make a sort of third currency where it's like each currency, the new currency that works in the shop that isn't iron, that's unlockable through playing the game modes, that's going to have its own rates tied to it. How much scrap do you earn through playing Horde or Escape or multiplayer? Because the first thing people will go is, oh, I don't play Horde, I play multiplayer, I'm not earning enough scrap, I can't buy the skins, it's much, and there's all these ratios that are going to get changed and tweaked, and they'll have to make a third currency so it's not tied to all of that to avoid that. And even then, those ratios are still going to be altered unless it was something as simple as playing 15 minutes earns you X amount of, copper, and copper can be used to spend in the store. If it was tied to game modes, like you play Horde, you earn copper, you can then buy skins with them, then people will be like, oh, that's got a better ratio, I'll play that mode. And people think, nah, that won't happen. It will. Everybody games the system. That's how it works. And that's a long answer. But that's kind of why it won't happen. And also, forget all that. It's TC's way of making money, whether they want to say it or not. They don't want to give anything away for free. Like, if you're a business, why would you? If you could get somebody to pay for something that normally you give away for free, why wouldn't you do that? Now, people will say, that's what I'm talking about, typical greedy TC, but it's not. Every company does it. The problem is doing it in a way that doesn't feel greedy. That's the difficult part of it all, isn't it? So, yeah, good question. Sadly, I don't think it's even going to be possible. We'll hear what Dana says.
I don't know if that's ever been like an idea like bounced around, because that would make it very similar to like Gears 4, because like what people loved about obviously it's a bit different between like the content that was added on Gears 4 and then like the content that's added through the operations on Gears 5. But what people loved about Gears 4 was the fact that people could either like spend time or like spend money, so like they could like buy the characters when it got changed further down the line, like directly.
Yeah.
Or if they couldn't like buy the characters, they were maybe spending time on the game to build up their sort of like currency collection of the credits.
Yeah.
And then like use their time in a currency.
Completely agree that you could have the balance between time and currency. That's always a great thing, especially in a retail game. However, here's my cynical view. TC... Oh, right. Let me reword this. Gears of War 4, it wasn't time versus currency, because you couldn't guarantee the thing you wanted to purchase. Yes, you could earn a lot of credits, but that was to then buy a box that might mess up. You might not get the item you want. So therefore, you can waste your time, which will incentivize paying. If you can buy a box and get the wrong thing, then people might not do it. They might just think, oh, I'll just buy a load of boxes. I farmed for ages and then didn't even get the skin I want. I'd rather just buy 10 boxes, right? So then the counter argument is, well, they changed it and it became a really, really good system at the end. So here's what you've got to think. Did they change the system because they wanted to be a end user friendly game? They wanted people to earn content in a way, that is fair for the user? Or did TC think, all right, we've made enough money off these loot boxes. It's now time to shift gear, and for the remaining people that are still playing towards the end of the life cycle of Gears 4, it's time to let them purchase boxes with all of their excess scrap, because we've made enough money here, we can change the system. And then when Gears 5 came out, they needed money again, so they went back to their paid system. That could be a cynical approach. Just depends what you think. I just don't see them ever doing it.
There is a lot about the store. If you look at from where the store launched with, a lot like Gears 4 actually. If you remember back when Gears 4 launched, and I think it was the UIR soldier that was it the UIR
4,004. Yeah, so yeah, like it was so like the first pack was like Gary Carmine like anniversary. It was like 200 credits, and then the first normal pack was UIR 4,400 credits, and it was only available for 24 hours.
Yeah.
So like if you didn't have credits, you're like, well, what do I do?
Yeah. No, for sure. So I think that's a good example of us probably missing the market launch and then moving through and adjusting and adapting as we went along. And with Gears 5, if you look at how the store launched with our pricing structure, with a lot of that kind of stuff, it's already changed quite a bit. A lot of it based on, feedback from you guys. And we were listening and we are listening. And it is something that we're still having ongoing conversations.
I'm really sorry to interrupt this, but this guy, mate, I'm telling you, this guy, all right, this is the only user I've ever banned, I think, from my Twitch channel. This guy, right, I'm gonna call you out, mate. This guy, Wicked He Bad, I see him in every comment section. His name on YouTube is like Wicked He Bad with a load of like what I would call ASCII characters. And he has this Joker picture, and every single video I made, he would just basically say, shut up, complaining you're just bad. Right? And I see it in all the other comments, and here he is, again, Lancer is fined, people just suck TC. Like, these are, right, what you've got to understand is for every one person out there that gives valid criticism and tries to think about solutions like Shadowz, like some other people in chat, like yourselves at home watching, there's like one person that's just like, shut up, everything's fine, Lancer's good, you're bad, blah blah blah. Like, any criticism is like blah blah blah. This guy, mate, I'm normally I don't call people out, but I see this guy in every Gears comment. I see him on threads, I see him in Discords. He never stops preaching that he is basically like this god player and everyone else just sucks, and like it's his way or the highway. I really, really dislike comments and people that do that, it's bad when I picked his name out and I was like, that's that guy. Like, he's always doing it. It's ridiculous.
Like, I try to think for like, how can you make like everything in the game is accessible to as wide of an audience as possible. So like, obviously right now with the store how it is, like the people buying Iron to get the content in the store, like if the people that can't do that had this like choice to use like the scrap currency to gain the content in the store, like it wouldn't take away from the people that are still like when Operation 2 bundle comes out, like the people that are going to get it, even if that change was made, like the next Operation like bundle, like they would still end up getting it, like the same like demographic that would still like just be buying the stuff anyway. It's just like trying to think about how like for example, like obviously like the Locust Bolter or like the Locust Cyclops, you could also say as well, like that would just give Gears 5 like people like a reason to play it with. Just like right now, like if you knew like say like right now we have High Busted Down, you're like, I don't really like that character skin, like but I have an opportunity to get like the next character skin next week with like a certain amount of scrap, like because I don't like the High Busted Dell that's in the store right now. Like if I grinded out the game this week, like just to save up my scrap, and then like the next like the store refresh would happen, and then it would be like, oh yeah, the Locust Cyclops, like I'm glad that like I put the time in to grind the game, and then I can reward myself with like that Locust Cyclops in the next store weekly reset.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of kind of unpacking what you're saying there is a lot of where the dialogue is focused right now around the idea of being able to get characters on my terms, like getting character on the player's terms versus getting a character on getting characters on. I like that you're trolling yourself on the chat.
Yeah, I say like a lot, you know. Like
It's
I
okay.
have words that like, my vocabulary isn't large. You know, I'm gonna be like this, like that, like that, like this.
Yeah. But the way we've got it is there's conversations around of how do people get content. When can people get content? And that's what a lot of the dialogue is right now, and we're going to have more to say about that as things become finalized and firmed up. But it is something that it is feedback that we're hearing, and we talked about. So there's a whole bunch of movement questions that we got around, or sort of movement, weapon tuning, the roadie running question, the rotation disabled, that kind of dedicated roll button. There's a whole bunch of questions around mechanics. I'm going to have Jamie McTaggart, who is our lead designer around the weapon tuning and the movement and all that. He's been on before. I'm going to get him on actually next week to talk a lot about this, because it's way better for him to speak at depth around how the mechanics of something work. Even though I know kind of at a high level and broad strokes, he can get into the minutia and talk a little about. And I think more importantly, can he talk a little bit about kind of what those features are specifically, but he can actually talk about what is the intent of why that feature is the way it is, and then if that feature is going to change, what is the intent of what we want to have happen. So I'm going to use the example of the one that I know that Chaps cares a lot about the dedicated roll button. I think that's him. Yeah, a dedicated roll button. I know he cares a lot about that one. I'm going to let him speak to if that's something he would consider, if there's a reason why that's not there. All of that makes way more sense for him to explain that in those. So there's a bunch of questions that I got, which are great questions. I'm going to keep them for next week, but I'm going to have Jamie on and we're going to talk.
I don't think the problem is the fact that Dana is passing it off to somebody more knowledgeable. I don't think that's an issue at all. In fact, it's a smart move. Why would you answer a question about movement if you're not 100% on the reasonings, the why, the behind it, the mechanics, and you're just going to set yourself up for failure? So it understands that he's got a load of questions about movement, which, by the way, I think are pointless. I think the reason Gears of War is currently a small game, or smaller than it should be, isn't because of nuances in movement. It's more down to core gameplay aspects and thematic problems and marketing and all these other things that I think are the problem. I don't think the reason Gears of War 5 would have been a success is out of the gate. If it rolled out with perfect movement, it wouldn't have been a success. If it rolled out with working servers and a good theme and it looked cool and it had blah 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 blah, had all these other things that I could talk to you until I'm blue in the face that I've got ideas about. If it had all of these things, it would have been a success. Bad movement or bad gun balance, whatever, isn't the reason a game succeeds or fails. It can help, absolutely it can help, but it's not the be-all and end-all, because there are tons of games that launch with bad balance, but people stick with it because they know it's going to improve, and they know that the core game is worth sticking by, because balance is always changing. So, you can't base the reason you play a game based off balance, because it's always changing. So there's got to be something other than balance that keeps you playing. Right? To sort of further expand, the reason I'm mentioning that is because balance always changes. People stick with the game. I don't think because of the balance. They stick with it for other reasons. Like the reason I got into Gears of War in the first place wasn't because of balance. It was because I saw the Corpser on TV and was like, damn, that looks cool. It had nothing to do with what is the multiplayer balance. I didn't even play multiplayer until I got Xbox Live and I got my first piece of broadband, or DSL I think it was, in like 2006 Christmas. No, it might have been January, something like that. And so to continue the point, I don't think people stick with it for that reason. The issue is that because people know, all right, balance is ever changing, It might be good this week, it might be bad next week, but the core game's really good, so I'll stick with it. Right, so if the core game was really good and the balance sucked, you'd stick with it if you knew it was going to get fixed. So the issue is, I feel, that players feel a disconnect when they hear... I'm not saying Dana specifically, I'm saying in general. I feel like when they listen to maybe the community, maybe channels or whatever, they feel a disconnect in the sense of balance, that nobody's... How do I word it without sounding daft? No one's sort of batting for them. No one's in their corner, you know? So when you hear Dana say, and I'm not singling out Dana, this goes for anything, just using him as the example because he's on screen. When Dana says, all right, I've got a lot of ideas about balance, but I'm going to pass it off for Jamie, then people begin to think, well, is this guy batting for us? Is he fighting the same fight? What does he believe in? What are his core values to the game's franchise? What's going on there? Should I stick with this game? I don't like the balance. Is it going to change? This guy isn't really voicing his opinion, so it's all about Jamie. So now we need to find out who Jamie is, because he's going to be the direction of the game. So really, Jamie probably should be on more often if that's the case. And when I listen to somebody to Jump, when I listen to somebody from GGG, Path of Exile, there are loads of things in the balance, and there are loads of things that I think that are inside the game that very, very frustrate me. Not every game's perfect, and there's loads of things in loads of games that frustrate people. But when I hear Chris Wilson talk, I think to myself, this guy gets it. Like, he's the lead of the game, and when I listen to him talk, he voices the same concerns that I have about performance, about loot drop ratios, about longevity, about maps, about character builds, about AoE, all of these things. And I think to myself, if he's passing on that feedback that he believes to the team, the game's going to be in a good stead, because, you know, he has the same sort of intrinsic values that the community has, or to me, you know. So again, when I hear Chris Wilson talk, I think to myself, right, this guy's like batting for me, he's in my corner. So there might be some frustrations with the game, but I'm going to keep following it even if I'm not playing it. I'm going to keep up to date because I think it's going in the right direction. I think what happens is when people tune into these dev blogs or read forum posts or whatever, they think to themselves, whether it be Dana, whether it be a forum user, whether it be a YouTuber, they think to themselves, what, these guys don't bat for me. These aren't OG people, or these aren't people that have the same values that I want in the franchise. And then they leave because they think, all right, like, the game might be cool, but I really don't think these people get what I want, and the game isn't going to follow that path that I want it to follow, so people leave. I hope I made sense there, because that's kind of a hard point to put across, like off the cuff, without really writing it down. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, it's kind of like, to do a really, really simple example. Let's say you're a footballer and you want the nets to be bigger. And every time you ask the guy that is the creator of the nets, what do you think about the net size? And he says, yeah, we'll pass that off to somebody else. Or you ask a community member, what do you think about the size of the nets? And they go, I want the nets to be smaller. And then they go onto a forum, what do you think about the size of the nets? I want them to be smaller as well. And you're a person that holds a position where you think the nets should be bigger. You think to yourself, should I stick with this game? Nobody else holds the same opinion that I do. And when I ask the developer, he sort of passes it off to somebody else. And what does that other person think? Because we don't really hear from them enough. So I think people are losing trust in the roadmap of Gears because they don't think the dev team has intrinsically or sort of thematically the same ideas that they want from the game. I think that makes sense what I'm saying, or I could just be talking crap. Who knows? Let me know in the comments. But
will we start seeing more devs or non-community people posting on Reddit and forums? Yeah, what we're going to do is, what we want to have is, we're going to create focused points of conversations where, if it's Jamie or Jote or Michael Shannon, who is on the PvE side, we can go and create those. So there's a little bit of intent and purpose around that. So we can go and put them out there so it's not just a free-for-all of response, because these guys are busy and it's hard for them to go and necessarily take their time to just live on the forums. But if we can sit down and say something like, hey, we want to talk a little bit about aim assist, just because I see somebody just pointed it out. We'll do a thread around that, and then Jamie can talk a little bit about what that means. So that's kind of where we are. So stay tuned for that. Can we expect any changes to come to
Operation
this?
4 delayed officially.
Sorry?
WeCho's asking, is OP4 delayed officially? Is that because that's what you touched on a little bit earlier, talking about?
We're gonna announce the specific dates next week, but it is gonna move out, not by a lot. So before everyone starts panicking and freaking out, it's gonna move out a little bit, and a lot of that is, I mean, frankly, that's because you're gonna see the volume of what's gonna be in Operation 4, and it just took more time in the world of COVID. So it was an ambitious plan, and then the COVID happened, and then the work from home mandate happened, and it's just something that was just, we had to, it's a reality of what's going on with development right now. So I get it. F in the chat. I get you guys are frustrated. You want the next operation to come. I don't have anything more to say to that. I
want it tomorrow, Dana.
What's that?
I want it tomorrow.
I think I can say this with certainty, Ed, is if we could get it out earlier, then we would. I think this is the thing that I find a little bit like, it's like the idea that we were holding back content, or the idea that we were doing this kind of stuff. A lot of, if we have things, we would put them out. And we're not holding them back to spite someone. If we could get this out, we would. Like, full stop. I'm not. I get the frustration, but it's something that it is a reality of where we're at. I'm happy to take the lumps on this one. It is unfortunately what it is with that kind of scenario. Okay. And I'm changing the metrics around what it makes to become a partner. Based on that, we're going to go and then bring new people in. We're going to get rid of people that aren't maybe as active as I want them to be. And then the other part is we have, as we adapt our staffing, we're going to become a lot more diligent about getting assets into the folder for people to go and create content around. Those are the two fixes that are on plan right now. I just have to sort of make sure that we have the one change is easy because it's just changing a number and then a little bit of metrics on our side. The other part is a little bit harder in terms of getting, it's just from a bandwidth, as we have a little bit less staff, in terms of getting content into the folder for you guys to go and build assets and stuff out of.
A few people have asked me. I did apply for it, and then I got turned down. And then I haven't really applied since, but it's nothing like on my priority list. I'm not like trying to be, I'm just making Gears videos at the moment because I'm enjoying making Gears videos. One day I'll stop making Gears videos. Being a TC partner, yeah, I guess it would be okay, but it's not something like hugely on my list of like, oh, I really want to become a TC partner. But then you do get silly questions like this, right? When they're like, assets, who needs assets? So if you don't know, apparently there's like a big folder with like, I guess the only thing I've ever had similar is when I got a code for tactics. I got a folder of assets that was like high quality images, like 4K scans, etc., some videos, and obviously you can use them to like make thumbnails, make videos, talking points, and they are useful for a content creator. And then you get these people that are like, lol, who wants assets? And it's like, what do you mean? That's like what every game is built on. Like, of course people want good assets. Like, what? I think what people are trying to say is, like, I don't know what Shadowz is truly saying, but I imagine like they probably don't get enough in the folder or enough help to really make content to be a content creator. They're kind of out there on their own. So I think the partners are asking for a little bit more support, which is understandable.
Character death choice in the Gears 5 campaign. As a lore guy, I hate it. I hate the fact that we finished the Gears 5 campaign and we still don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, from like a lore point of view, like I don't know, like that one gameplay element of the Gears 5 campaign, I was just like, I don't feel like it belongs in the Gears story, with like when you care about characters so much, and for you to like chuck up in the air and be like find out next time.
on the next episode of Gears of War.
Yeah, on the next
find out.
Yeah.
I think for us, there's a couple of things, and I have to be careful because I don't want to put words into Rod's mouth retroactively. I don't want to put words into Matt Searcy, who is who was responsible for the narrative team on Gears 5. But we wanted the choice to be an emotional choice. We didn't want it to be something that you were passively engaged with. As emotionally gut-wrenching as Dom's death was, it was something you watched rather than participated in. And for us, with the idea of the choice between JD or Dell, we knew that there was a lot of baggage inside of that. Did you really want to? How much did you want to hurt Marcus? How much did you care about Dell, who I think had who had a bigger role in Gears 5? From it, like, you know, he was around more. He was Kate's sort of counterpart, and through a big chunk of the game.
Okay, let me take it back. Right, let's address what Dana said. He said you sort of watched Dom's death rather than participated in it. I kind of disagree. I feel like we participated in Dom's death heavily. We played with the character from, you know, day one. All went through all of his stories. We played with the character, listened to him talk, all of the, you know, blah, 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 backstory, etc. All of the moments you went through with Dom. So to then have him pass away, you know, well, not pass away, sorry, to, you know, have Dom sort of killed off. You definitely were, it was impactful because, you know, you 100% were there for the journey. So you were there, you might have watched the final hoorah of Dom, but you were there from the beginning and you were actively involved. Maybe you didn't press the button, but we pressed all the buttons before it happened. And here's the reason why I think story based games shouldn't have choices on main characters, because when there's a sequel, your choice will be irrelevant, right? Unless it did a Mass Effect, kind of where your choices carry over. I think it's Mass Effect that did that. What's going to end up happening is if you chose A to die or B to die, then it's not going to have too much impact in the story, because if it did, it would drastically affect how the rest of the game played out. And that would create entire new story arcs, entire new blah blah blah, entire new everything, right? But that's obviously not going to happen. So all it's going to be probably is if you chose A to die, they might mention it next. They might, you know, mention their passing, have a small little 10-second cutscene, or if you mention B to die, they might do that. They're not going to change the drastic outcome of the game to be like, right, if you saved A, this is what happens, and if you saved B, bang, we're going on along a different path. It's just going to be a very, very small thing, and that's why it feels dumb to give a player a massive choice that is ultimately, I think, not going to have much effect in the end anyway, because it just, well, it can't really, can it? It wouldn't make sense to give a player that much choice, as in who they kill off, that then in turn affects the entire story and lore of the game in the future. It can't have that much impact, so it was kind of a choice for choice sake. That's what I felt like. Anyway, I don't know what you thought about that campaign moment. Let me know down below. But yeah, I didn't really like it at all.
Of knowing who died, whereas we wanted to give you the experience of having to be involved in the process of picking who died.
Yeah, like I think it would have been funny if it went down like exactly how it is right now, but the player's choice is just disregarded. So like you get that choice to oh shit, I gotta choose one, and then it's already like decided in game. Like so whoever like I don't know, even if, but saying that, people might just get frustrated with that as well. Like if you went to go like, oh, I'm gonna choose to save, like I'm gonna choose to save JD, and it's already been decided that, you know, even if you choose to save him, he still gets killed off. I don't know. I don't know. It was very like mixed emotions when I played through it, like especially for the first time.
Who did you kill?
Like, yes. Oh yeah, you have to kill off Dale. Like it's a wrap. You have to save JD in it. Like you can't, you know, like if you just look at the facts, like Dale's parents died in the Locust War. He has no unless there's some sort of like negative space. Like he has like no like living like family compared to the son of legendary hero Marcus Phoenix, and also the reason why Anya's dead. You know,
yeah.
Like I there's no way you can not save JD, especially like after like Marcus is the character in Gears that if anybody gets close to him, you're on the list of like gone bye time, because you know he's like Marcus is literally like lost everybody from you know, even in the Pendulum Wars, like Carlos Santiago to obviously Dom, his dad, his wife, his brothers, his like just you can't do that to Marcus, you know, like I did go play through like a second time just to see it, and like I'm so glad, because like the emotion that you get from Marcus if you save Dale is just like holy whoa.
See, I actually
that ending cutscene.
I saved Dell because I actually look at it this way. I agree with you that the story of Gears is the story of Marcus and the Phoenix family, but mostly Marcus. And to me, like, Marcus is a guy that I don't think ever should be happy. I think he is a guy that is like has the eternal, and this is my own personal feeling, this isn't me speaking as TC here, but I think he's somebody that is like, his life is about the struggle. He's never really wanted to, you know, he's the reluctant hero. He just gets shit done. He does what he needs to do. All of those kind of things. And for him, whether it's losing Anya, whether it's losing Dom, all of these things is Marcus's life. It's why he was holed up farming tomatoes, you know, in Gears 4. Like, his life is really about that moment of disappointment and that struggle that he has to go. And to me, getting rid of, I see you shaking your head, and getting rid of JD to me is actually honoring his character arc more than the other way around.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
I think like Marcus,
and I really like Eugene as an actor, so I have to kind of.
I know. I met him when I got the Gears tattoo finished off in at the Gears in London event. Yeah, because Liam and Eugene were there, and I just walked up to him straight away. And I was like, because it was just before launch as well, because obviously I had the review copy, so I played it a little bit early. So I just kind of like I was speaking to him like with Matt Cersei. That's when I was hanging out with Matt Cersei there as well. I was telling him about all the story stuff as well. But I secretly went up to him and I was like, I know what happens, and I killed you and I saved you.
And what did they say?
It was quite funny to see their reactions as well, because obviously like they were so ready to talk about it, because obviously everybody else there had not finished the campaign, maybe not even started. But I can't remember. Like I think they weren't surprised that I saved Leo. I saved JD. You know.
Yeah. I do feel like I have a theory that if you were someone that his introduction to Gears of War began in 1, 2, and 3, you were more likely to save JD. And if your introduction to Gears of War was in Gears 4 and 5, you were more likely to save Del.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my
Like I
theory.
said, because going through Gears 1 to 3, like you see Marcus going through that pain.
You were going to save Marcus. So what he's trying to say there is, if you played the originals and are actually a fan, you probably would have saved Marcus. You can't. You've got to save JD, haven't you? To help Marcus. You can't put Marcus through that after everything he's been through. You can't to save Dell. Dell is such a shit character. Am I alone in this thinking? Who saved Dell and why? Why would you possibly save Dell?
Of like losing, his brother, his father, and so you like if you have that connection with Marcus, especially like it's just as soon as that question came up, I was like, nope, not even gonna, I'm not even gonna touch that. Hell no. Microsoft GameStack Live, I think that's what it was.
Yeah, for E3 and 2018.
We have a very specific. No, I think it was more recently, yeah.
Oh yeah, okay, I know the one you're talking about. Yeah,
I think it was the it was like the documentary on like all of the like accessibility for
I know the one you're talking about. Yeah, sorry,
people that play Gears 5, because Matt Cersei, the campaign guy, looking at something that looks to fit his exact campaign role. Because a few people
I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea.
But no, I think not in terms of what it is, but in terms of like, especially for me, like I would love to see more of. Here's something that we're not ready to talk about, and we're not even going to acknowledge for a certain amount of time. But discreetly, here is a small little teaser for you to go and talk about it. And I think that's what that kind of feels like to me when I saw what that was.
I have nothing that I can say or add or discuss or anything in that sort of scenario. Why doesn't Gears have a large competitive scene? I don't know. I think for me, competitive Gears is interesting. And I'd like to get your take on this, because I know you've been to some esports events. I know you're an excellent player, but I know that you're definitely not at the caliber of the pros. And you're a Gears fan.
I get frustrated with people sitting up. I get frustrated with people sitting there Lancer. I'm like, no, I'm running in.
Yeah.
Interesting. He says he doesn't know why the Gears of War esports is small. Is that really? Surely we know why the Gears esports is small. Visually terrible to watch. Very, very underdeveloped scene in terms of structure, in terms of actual ways to compete. It's not in any way sort of regulated in terms of actual proper ladder equating to ranking and all of this. It's kind of just who rolls up gets into the event, who can pay for travel. Professional players are really not very professional, especially in the way they act, and it turns a lot of people away. The humping in game, the shit talking, people might go, I love it, that's what makes Gears. But look at any big esports, it's very, very PC, it's very advertiser friendly, it's very sponsor friendly, and I'm not saying you have to drop all of that, but it needs to be managed a little better. The actual format is very boring, and the main thing is the professional players play a game mode that nobody else plays. This does not happen anywhere else. Rainbow Six Siege, you can go and play Rainbow Six Siege the same way the pros do. League of Legends, I can go on Summoner's Rift and play a 5v5 like the pros do. You know, I can squad up, get 5 people in, play ranked, go in flex queue, practice like the pros do, climb to Challenger. You know, Dota, I can play solo queue. StarCraft, I can do a 1v1 and climb the GM ladder. I managed to get to Masters when doing that. All of this stuff is possible. Gears of War is like, the professional scene plays these unique settings and weapon swaps that isn't online, so that's a disconnect. They play a different game mode than everybody else plays, and they play in a 5-man stack, which really you don't really do in ranked that much. And it's just... the average user experience is so disconnected from the professional user experience in Gears of War, and there's such a lack of joining together from the company. There's nobody joining that. There's nobody strengthening that bond between the regular player and the professional player, that nobody gives two hoots about pro play, and that's the reality. And that is the reality. It is a garbage thing to watch. I'm sorry if you like Gears Esports. I've tried my very best to watch it. It is not good for a variety of reasons that I could make an entire video on. Let me know if you're interested in that. But to hear that he doesn't really know why it's small, and maybe he's just saying that just to be coy. Maybe he knows why it's small and he doesn't want to say it. But that is kind of like, we know why it's small, don't we? Let's hear what Shadowz has got to say.
Yeah, I tried competing at a few events, but yeah,
it's because you have to play it. You have to play a certain style to be successable. It's a very much a team-based game.
Yeah, I just want to run in like shotgun. Let's go.
Yeah, but the reason why I think competitive Gears is interesting. I think it is phenomenally fun to watch in person because of like the energy of the crowd and everything like that. I do think that because Gears is such a unique game in terms of movement and cover-based systems and all of that, that you don't really see it in any other game. Obviously, movement is important and map positioning is important in a game like CSGO. Understanding team dynamic is critical in any competitive game. But I think Gears is so unique. So I think for me, the uniqueness is what makes Gears Esports great. But I think at the same time, it also probably acts as a little bit of like, it's not as, like we saw a lot of COD pros after the Halo joint event in New Orleans 2 years ago, that they were like, oh my God, this is amazing. I want to go and compete. I'm going to show up in San Diego was the one after that. And all of these were like some of the top COD players in the world. So these guys know how to play video games. And they started trying to play Gears. And after about a week or two, they stopped playing. For the straight up truth is they weren't good at it. Like, and I think
this game's a different beast. Like,
yeah, and I think
there's so many like systems into the game.
Yeah, and I think Gears is what makes Gears amazing is that it's hard. What is hard about what makes Gears a niche competitive sport is that it's hard. It's the skills don't always translate. You can be like the skills translate out of Gears more easily than they translate into Gears.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a Gears of War player can transfer to Call of Duty much easier than a Call of Duty player can transfer to Gears. I'm really glad I learned Gears, and I'm really glad I stuck with Gears, because it has taught me a lot of things inside the video game world in terms of just movement, positioning, timings. All of that stuff really helps, and I think being a third-person player, I do in some games have a disadvantage, but I have a massive advantage in some other games. But that's what I'm saying, that barrier to entry, I don't think it needs to be there. I think a company the size of Gears should really have avenues for people to get into competitive, to teach people, and then the pro players should play the same settings as the general public. There's loads and loads of there's loads and loads of things. It's interesting to hear, because I kind of laugh at the pros in Gears of War because it's kind of a joke scene. I kind of understand where they're coming from as well. It's a very odd scene that I think I could talk a lot about, but I won't go too in depth there.
Yeah,
that's
especially being like third person. Like there isn't really like many other like shooter multiplayer hardcore games out there to even have any sort of like past experience jumping into Gears. You know, like you can't just jump from like a first person shooter into Gears when you see your whole body and you're like, wait, hang on a second. Like I see my whole character here. But I don't know, it's hard with Gears, like, you know, in terms of people like even getting interested in esports. Like I said, for someone like, for me, like I enjoy the game like casually online. But trying to have like, I can't even set up like a team of like, I have 4 dedicated guys that I want to rock with competitive esports with. And like, if you don't have that, you can't, you know, obviously get involved to begin with. So it's not like one person like trying to get involved into Gears esports. Like sometimes it's like you have to get involved with like a group of buddies, you know, because it's such a team game and like.
Yep. Also, he touches on a good point there. He touched on a good point, but maybe he didn't. I don't think Dana picked up on it. Maybe. I think what he's trying to say is, the problem is that even if you really, really like Gears of War and you try to get into competitive Gears of War, people get hit with this barrier of, well, I don't have 4 other competitive players, so how the hell do I get involved? And that's what I'm saying. There is just no build. There's no connection between regular folk, competitive folk. There's no avenue to grind because the ladder system doesn't work and the ladder system doesn't give rewards, you know. You get the top of Grandmaster on StarCraft, you're been noticed. You get the top of Grandmaster on League of Legends, you've been noticed. Top of Masters on Gears 2v2, who cares? I'm literally I'm top 1% in Masters. I think I fell to top 4%, and Stotty said I was the 4th best, the highest ranked player in the world in 2v2s. And I don't even play that game mode. So, I mean, I'm pretty good, but you know what I mean? It doesn't really mean anything. And if it doesn't mean anything, people don't want to sweat. And if people don't want to sweat, why would you play? There's no avenues. And I've often thought I could be that guy that tries to connect the regular folk to the professional folk. But I feel a huge disconnect that I can't make that content that I want to make. You know, I'd love to say this is how you get into competitive. That's why I started my Play Smarter series, because I wanted to get the average folk better at the game, that they would then stick with the game and then in turn become competitive. Because I feel like the main issue is people pick up Gears of War, suck, really just don't know how to get better, and then give up and go back to a regular game. And they don't understand what it feels like to be good at the game, because what I mean is, if you pick up Call of Duty and shoot some people and get the few kills, you can start to think, all right, I know what this is going to feel like if I get pretty good. I'm going to be doing this action, but more consistently. If you pick up Gears of War, you can't wall bounce, you can't strafe, you can't use cover, you can't peek, you can't, jiggle peek, you can't do all of these techniques that you need in a third-person shooter. You can't do all of these things, and you never get that feedback of chaining a couple kills. They never know what it feels like or what it would feel like to get good, so they just think, is this even worth my time? And then they leave. So that's why I made that a series originally, to become that bridging gap. But I've never been able to do it, because every time I tried to bridge that gap, I'll be shut down by an incredibly niche, toxic PC community scene or Xbox scene that do not want to let new people in. It's a very gated community, and it's a very small community, and that's what Shadowz touches on there. I think what like he's trying to say, even if you love Gears of War, it's just impossible to get involved, because there's just so many gateways and hurdles to get through. If you want to get, like I said, that Discord, that Gears Discord, if you want to get involved on that competitive, you have to go into that Discord, and that Discord's awful. And you try bridge that gap, you bridge the gap, and it all leads back to that Discord or that forum or this person or that person, and it all becomes very difficult to create a enjoyable scene, because you like I say, you're gated by so many things that people just think, all right, I'm being gated by a ton of things. Why would I even bother sticking with this? And
I know that, like, if you look at Escalation as an esports mode, I think it is so, like, Ryan really designed that in a way to be such a very team-oriented game to be successful at that. I think which makes the game mode interesting. At the same time, it creates a secondary, like what you were just talking about, a barrier to entry under the competitive aspect of it. So,
yeah.
I got my boy Ryan's back. I want to say it. All right, people laugh at me. Escalation is actually a really, really good game mode. It is. If you get 5 people and actually play Escalation properly, it's actually a really, really interesting game mode. There is an incredible amount of depth to it, and I want to be honest, it's in the wrong franchise. That game mode is really good, and if it was put into a different franchise, I think people would really appreciate what it does. Again, the problem is, because we don't play it online and there are no players, that we don't care about watching it. It could be the best mode in the world, but if I don't play it, I'm not going to watch it. It's like saying League of Legends or whatever. Let's use an example that people can relate to, a simple one, tennis. It's like saying, you know, you watch tennis singles and they're there trying to get the ball over the net, keep it in between the lines and win the point in a very simple fashion, right? But the tennis that you play is like there isn't a net. You don't have to get it over, you have to hit it under, and you keep it outside of the lines. So you get really good at that game mode, and then someone says, do you want to watch the pros play a different thing? You're like, well, not really, because you can't relate your skills to that person. If everybody plays the same game mode, you're like, this is how he hits the ball over the hill. Like the net, I could do that. Or this is how he runs, or this is how he keeps it in, and blah, blah, blah. Or this is how he rotates from hill to hill. But if you don't play that game mode, you've just got no interest. The pros and the players have to play the same game mode. And if that's not the case, because the pros go, yeah, these weapons suck, or this balance sucks, or this map is unplayable on this setting, then your ranked setting should be the competitive setting. There shouldn't be a disconnect. Ranked Gridiron should have the same swaps that professional Gridiron has, etc., etc. And they're not doing that, and I don't know why. They have maybe no one in the team's bringing it up, but it just seems such an obvious change. And here, this is another point. I don't know how he's wording it. I think he might be saying, oh, if you're shit, I don't want to play with you. Or he could be saying the other point, which I agree with, is the sad thing is there's no way to get into Gears of War, because if you suck, it's just, you absolutely suck, mate. Deal with it. And because then the ranking system doesn't work, you get put into games where people are good, and you get walloped. That's very disheartening for the average player. And then, because it's disheartening for the average player, they quit. Now, on League of Legends, if you joined up and said to a professional player, "Hiya, mate, I've just started, I'm just brand new on the game, can I play with you?" They'd be like, "Listen, bro, you suck. Go and play ladder. Go and play with all the other bronzes. And then once you've got out of bronze, go play all the other silvers. Once you've played the silvers, get into gold, etc., etc., start climbing." You can't climb in Gears of War because it is the worst ranking system I've ever seen. It is, I've got to be honest, and it's impossible for new players to get involved in, really. It just is.
Brought up a great point, could we, obviously we have, in terms of the competitive gears, you have, the esports showing, could you not maybe integrate, free-for-all and, community, I think a lot of the community's been doing that recently, I don't know if you've been seeing on Twitch, there's been a lot of, community-driven, tournaments, could we ever see TC sort of incorporate that into sort of an official supported thing? Whether you're using content creators, streamers, mixed in with pros, just integrating that side of the community into the sort of same aspect of esports without necessarily being the Escalation 5v5 esports.
Yeah, I think for us, for sure. I mean, I know that when I see it, I try to retweet and amplify and give some love to when people are doing those tournaments. To me, I think those tournaments are actually really, really important. I think, it shows the passion that people have for Gears as a player. I don't even look at those less as a competitive thing, right? If you've got somebody who's putting up $500 of their own dollars to go and host an FFA tournament, I think that's amazing, and I think that's great. And I love the fact that people are doing that. And I look.
Can I be cynical? Can I be really, really cynical for 2 seconds? I recently saw someone host a tournament, and I'm just a cynic, and I feel like these people are hosting tournaments purely just to get followers and subscribers and get known. Now, that might sound really, really bad, but the reason is I can't remember who it was, and I might have got the complete gist of the wrong end of the stick, but this is just my cynical brain in action. I was just like, there was somebody that said he's hosting a $1,000 tournament, but you've got to be a Twitch subscriber to enter. And obviously, he had a form where he was like, if you're not a Twitch sub, you can't enter. I'm pretty sure that's against Twitch TOS. Because that's a lottery in itself, and you're not allowed to do subscriber-only based stuff. But forget all of that. That feels more like if I get 500 subs, and we get 500 people enter, then I'll make the money back, and it'll be worthwhile. Now, I know that's how everything works, but it just feels like when I look at these community tournaments, And there's nothing wrong with doing that, by the way. Like, in theory, there's nothing wrong with it. But what I'm saying is, it just feels kind of like there's these niche communities that, and it's not necessarily the tournament owners or tournament creators' problem. I'm trying to think how to word it here without getting myself in hot water. It feels wrong to say, I'm hosting a tournament for the benefit of the community with a cash prize, but then saying, but you've got to subscribe to my Twitch to enter, because then obviously that's just making all his money back. And I'm not saying he should lose money for hosting a tournament, but that's kind of the way it comes across. And it's a scene that's so starved for money, and everybody, like, you see people doing wagers all day, pros doing wagers all day, you know, crazy stuff. And it's like a scene that's so starved for money, so starved for attention, that they'll just do anything for a bit of money. Like, I'll play a wager, I'll host a tournament and get Twitch subs, blah, blah, blah. And that's the way it feels. And I think the reason it's the way it is, and I don't blame them, is because it's so difficult to start anything bloody competitive in this game. Because everyone's an arse for a start. There's no channels to start anything, and anyone that controls those channels is generally an arse of a person for some reason. It's just the way it is. It's like they think they're like a gatekeeper. And again, there's a massive disconnect that TC and Gears in general, since the birth of Gears, they've never ever solved. The pros should play the same exact settings that regular folks play. That is my number one point. Like, when you used to play game battles in Gears 1, and you used to do some swaps, those should have been the swaps in ranked, because those are the, quote, the best swaps. Gears 3, this certain swap for this, that should have been the swaps in ranked. There should be your regular Joe social matches, and then if you want to play ranked, working ladder system with proper swaps and get practicing. That's what it should be, but it's just not like that at all.
Look at that less as a celebration of Gears Esports, as more as a celebration of Gears of War, and people get excited about that, and they love that. So
I think we need that gridiron in esports, man, to change it up. You know, get that like 2 game mode rotation on the go. Well,
yeah, and it's funny because we get that from a lot of pros that are like, can we, like, other competitive sports, like you know, whether it's Call of Duty or Halo or whatever, there's a mix of modes as part of their competitive scene. And I think it's actually a really interesting idea. I'd love to see the idea of escalation combined with like a gridiron. You bring that classic Gears single life mode experience, where you really can have one person go.
All right, we've been talking about this for a long time, so I won't bore you. I'll skip it on in a second. But yeah, I completely agree. It touches on the other point that we should play the same game modes. A regular Joe, I've always joked, I haven't even joked, I've always said it, honestly, and people have laughed at me. Competitive Gears of War should be team deathmatch. People will go, what are you talking about? Why? Because if you hosted a competitive team deathmatch, people would see how the game is meant to play. Every casual player plays TDM. They'd be way more likely to tune into it. Then the teams could vote. Okay, we've played our opening match on TDM. Now we're going to vote. You don't vote for the map. The map's already set. You then pick the game mode. Is it Guardian? Is it Gridiron? Is it Escalation? What do you want to play on? Teams are going to have to get much more diverse. Regular folks get to say, oh, this is how they play Gridiron on Vascar. Oh, this is where they keep the leader on Guardian District. And if their problem is that, well, if the pros play TDM and the pros play Guardian, it's going to be so long and so boring. That's your problem. Not the fact that Guardian is in the map rotation or in the pool, or this map's in the pool, or this. That's not the problem. The problem isn't the fact that the pros are playing Guardian and it's taking forever. The problem is the mode isn't balanced correctly, and that is the problem. At a high level, the game is incredibly unbalanced and boring, so you have to play these like specific game modes. You have to play these absolute specific game modes that nobody really enjoys watching, because the only other alternative is watching somebody basically camp on team deathmatch, which nobody wants to do. But that's the problem. Then don't remove TDM from the pool. Actually fix the problem that TDM has, or fix the problem that Guardian has at a pro level. You know, if people are finding it way too easy to protect the Guardian, let's fix that. If people are finding it way too difficult to protect the Guardian, like you host a tournament professionally and just no one can protect the Guardian, there's like no good spot to hide, there's no protection tools, then let's fix that. But that's the problem. Like, Gears just kind of makes these game modes and goes, right, there are your game modes, off you go be a pro on them, and they never really get properly tweaked. And if they do get properly tweaked, it's like a slight weapon custom fix that the community has to do, and then it never gets applied to the actual game. Yeah, I mean, people often think I don't have an opinion on esports, but I actually have a massive opinion on esports and how it could be done better, and it's just such a wormhole of, you could be there all day, you know, that it's just frightening that it doesn't even get done in the game. Like, I don't know what people are doing.
Of like, how can I think outside of the box and do something that hasn't been done before?
Yeah. No, I get that, and I respect that. And I think for me, you know, I have the luxury of knowing where Gears is going, and I see all of the stuff that's coming up, and I see, you know, what the team is working on, and I see where it's going to go. And you know, I'm excited about the future. There are so many good things that are coming down the pike that are amazing. So you know, good for you guys coming forward. Good for you guys as players. So I'm pointing to you. It doesn't really. I'm pointing one there because Shadowz is here on the TV screen and the chat's here. So I'm pointing to each of you. But yeah. So down that. Anyways, I'm gonna let you go to bed. I'm gonna answer a whole bunch of game questions that I know that Shadowz doesn't need to hear me answering about the 8-shot Nasher and so on and so forth. I should almost just
Alright, so just by that statement, I'm telling you folks, I will cut the video, I will watch them, but I'm telling you, all of the responses that are about to be asked are the same ones we get every single week. Even Dana knows it. This is what I'm saying. If you have a specific interest in the 8-shot Nasher, in about ranked, in about maps, I have answered every single question on the YouTube page. You go here, you go to YouTube, right? You go boom. Well, you won't do this, but you'll go to my channel, right? And you'll click the videos. And you'll go through to the videos and you'll be like, right, here's a dev stream. Click that. Right, has he answered anything? Blah, blah, blah. You can even see here, 6-shot Nasher, sponging, spotting. They've got all these things. Go to another dev stream. You know, there are tons and tons of dev streams here with tons and tons of, you know, timestamps and things that if you're interested in the shop, missing content, Terminators, nothing will have changed in this period of time, trust me. All the answers I've done a million times, and, you know, they're all there. So I'm not going to repeat myself. I will just say I've been talking for 2.5 hours. I'll chop this up and make it relevant for you. Thanks for tuning in. As always, there are links to support me. There is my Discord. There's my YouTube. Do subscribe, ring that bell. If you want to take a step further, you can join and become a member. You get a badge in the chat. You get priority when being basically replied to, etc. You can subscribe on Twitch if that's more your thing. Get some fun emotes to spam, etc, etc. You know, you can support directly with the content goal. At the moment, my content goal is going towards a new PC. My PC's on its last legs. It's like 7 years old now, and it's probably going to go towards that. I've already technically funded the PC. I've already got enough to buy the PC, but just know that if you do support it, it will go back into that fund and will basically make my life a little bit easier, and I will be slightly less broke after purchasing this PC. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I made this one really, really long because everybody last time moaned that it was too long. So alright, that was 2.5 hours solid of talking, and if anybody's done 2.5 hours solid of talking, I feel ready for a break, so I'm going to take a break, edit this up. Love to hear your feedback in the comments. Leave me a comment and a like. Let's try get this heavily liked and responded to. Would love to hear your feedback. Peace out.